They trusted you with something real, and your mind let it slip like nothing. Now they mention it again, and you have to fake recognition in real time. You search their face for clues while trying not to look suddenly lost. You remember the feeling of the moment, but not the story itself. You remember their voice turning softer when they reached the hardest part. You remember the weight in the room and the silence after they spoke. But the actual story is gone, as if your brain saved the mood instead. So you sit there building meaning from fragments and hoping it is enough. And when this keeps happening, it starts to feel deeper than forgetfulness. It starts to make you wonder what kind of person forgets things like that. For a while you may have assumed this means you do not care as much as you should. That if someone opened up to you and the story vanished, then something in you is cold. Maybe you even started labeling yourself as distracted, shallow, selfish, or emotionally absent. Because forgetting facts about someone's life feels more serious than forgetting a name. A name can seem small and social and easy to excuse with awkward laughter. But a story feels personal, and its disappearance feels harder to forgive. It can make you look back at yourself with a kind of quiet suspicion. Like maybe you were only pretending to listen while waiting for your turn to speak. Like maybe your attention has always been thinner than your kindness wants to believe. But that interpretation is often much harsher than the truth of what is happening. For many people, this is not a failure of heart, but a failure of storage. The care was there and the listening was there, but the memory formed badly. Something in the moment got felt deeply without being organized clearly enough to last. And once you understand that, the shame starts losing some of its old authority. Because forgetting a story does not always mean the person meant nothing to you. When someone tells you a story, your brain is not only receiving what they are saying, it is also reading their face and tracking their tongue and measuring your response. It is watching for the right moment to nod and the right moment to speak. It is trying to seem present while quietly managing the pressure of being present. And all of that consumes attention before the story has even settled anywhere stable. So the words may pass through you without ever being stored in a lasting form. You hear the story in real time, but your mind does not fully file the shape. That is because memory is not built from hearing alone, but from encoded attention. If attention is split, the details enter weakly and leave faster than you expect. This is why you can leave a conversation feeling moved but unable to retell it. The emotion landed, but the structure never became solid enough to survive the moment. Your brain kept the atmosphere because the atmosphere felt more urgent than the facts. It saved the tension in their voice and the weight behind certain sentences. But the sequence of what happened may have dissolved before it was ever secured. So forgetting the story later may begin much earlier than you think it does. Not all parts of a story are remembered with equal force by the human mind. Your brain is far more likely to keep what feels vivid than what feels organized. It holds on to emotional charge more easily than timelines, names, and clean sequence. That is why a person can remember the sadness in a story but lose the plot. The mind does not store experience like a recording that can be replayed on demand. It stores pieces that felt heavy, strange, familiar, painful, tender, or personally relevant. Anything that fails to attach to meaning becomes easier for memory to release. So a long story full of context can fade even when the feeling remains intact. You may forget what happened first and what happened after and who was involved, but still remember exactly when their eyes changed or when their voice became smaller. This is not random, and it is not proof that you were only half listening. It means your memory may privilege emotional residue over narrative architecture. It saves the atmosphere of a moment more easily than the blueprint of the event. So what disappears is often the structure, while what survives is the human weight. You did not lose the whole thing because you felt nothing, but because you felt differently. What makes this more personal is that many of these people are not absent at all. They are often too busy managing themselves while the other person is still speaking. They are checking their expression and measuring their tone and planning what comes next. They wonder if they seem warm enough, calm enough, interested enough, or emotionally correct. So while the story is being told, another conversation is already happening inside them. That inner noise competes with the story and slowly steals the attention needed to store it. The listener may look fully engaged while their mind is quietly rehearsing how to respond. They are not detached from the moment, but overloaded by how much of it they are managing. And when attention is spent on self-monitoring, memory has less power left for structure. This is why socially thoughtful people can forget stories in ways that seem strangely careless. They were not ignoring the person but overworking themselves inside the interaction. They were trying so hard to be present that they lost the shape of what was said. The story came in, but it had to compete with anxiety, performance, and internal correction. So what disappears is often not the feeling of the moment, but the sequence that carried it. And that is why this habit can come from sensitivity just as much as distraction. People who forget stories easily are often remembering people in a different language. They may not retain the sequence of events, but they absorb the emotional contour. They remember the pause before the confession and the look that followed the truth. They remember when the energy changed and when the room started feeling heavier. They remember the tension beneath the words, even after the words themselves are gone. So the problem is not always that they failed to register the person in front of them. Sometimes they registered them so impressionistically that the facts never stayed in order. Their memory may be built less for clean narrative and more for emotional texture. That kind of mind often holds on to atmosphere more tightly than explanation or sequence. It remembers how something landed long after forgetting how the story was arranged. This does not make the forgetting harmless, and it does not erase the social cost. But it does mean the habit may reveal a different architecture rather than empty concern. Some minds preserve essence more naturally than detail and resonance more than chronology. They lose the map yet keep the weather and somehow still carry the human weight. And once you see that clearly, the flaw begins to look far more nuanced than it did. None of this means you cannot get better at remembering what people share with you. A short mental summary, right after they speak, can help the story settle more clearly. One follow-up question can also turn a fading detail into something memory can hold. The goal is not to perform attention better, but to receive the person more fully. Because shame rarely improves memory and usually makes the mind even more scattered. You are not heartless just because your brain forgets the structure of what was said. It may simply be a mind that stores feeling faster than it stores sequence. And once you understand that, the guilt starts losing some of its old power. If this made you feel understood, subscribe for more videos on human psychology. There is a reason your mind works this way, and we are going to explore it.